So next, it is my great pleasure to introduce a CSAIL alumna who stands at the pinnacle of academic leadership and scholarly excellence. Professor Magdalena Balazinska is a distinguished professor at the University of Washington. Her contributions to the field of database systems, data management, and data science have been both deep and transformative. She is showing us how academic leadership and scholarship can walk together hand in hand. So please join me in welcoming a trailblazer in data science, author of many Best Paper Awards, director of the Paul Allen School of Computer Science at the University of Washington, and CSAIL alumna, Professor Magdalena Balazinska.
I guess my slides are here. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Well, thanks everyone for being here. It's really a great pleasure to be here to share a little bit about my journey after CSAIL, and mostly to express my gratitude for what CSAIL education has enabled me to do. So I started my journey here actually back in 2000, and as I was putting this talk together, I realized that 2000 was actually not yet the year where we would go and take like excessive amounts of pictures. So I had to quickly put together this, not quite a deep fake, more like a cheap fake of me back in 2000 starting at MIT. When I joined as a PhD student, I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to do something really exciting. So if you guess where this led me to, this actually led me to join the Networks and Mobile Systems group of Professor Hari Balakrishnan, who at the time was a junior faculty member. And he had shown me during the visit days one of the sensor networks they were building with all the sensors talking to each other. And I thought that's like the coolest thing ever. So this was again back in 2000. Except there was one issue when I came in September, is that actually Hari had a full group, and he had even that year recruited multiple new prospective graduate students. So he really just didn't have the space for yet another random person just showing up at his door on a Friday evening. Today, as the director of the Allen School, I understand that. And I would advise Hari to say no. But back then, I was a first-year PhD student, and I simply did not leave his office. And I kept talking about all kinds of research ideas until he gave up, and being the kind person that he is, let me join that wonderful group. And this was really, I think, what I think was truly exceptional is that the NMS group was both extremely supportive. People were kind to each other, reading each other's papers, collaborating on ideas, but at the same time, everyone was really ambitious about what they were doing. And for whatever idea people had in the group, most of the time, Hari would say, let's just try it. And if we try it, and put our heart and soul into it, we might just be successful. So that's what we did. And in the end, working first with Hari, then with Mike Stonebreaker when he joined, and at the end also with Sam Madden, we worked on data management systems, and in particular, data stream processing systems, where the idea is the data is not stored in files, not stored in a database, but the data is arriving continuously, and users expect their queries to also process that data and give them updates continuously. So we built this really cool Borealis distributed stream processing system, a wonderful collaboration with Brown University and Brandeis University. We worked on many topics related to load management, fault tolerance, and okay, I don't know if we were visionary or maybe we just got plain lucky, but stream processing really took off in industry, as we know, that really became a big deal, which was fantastic because that led to our papers really being actually read by people, so that was nice. And in fact, the Borealis paper remains, I think, my top cited paper with more than 2,000 citations, and was not the only one. And ultimately, we were also recognized with the Test of Time Award at SIGMO 2017. And those are the pictures showing both the award kind of ceremony and also Hari signing my thesis, just to show you kind of how long ago this was. Although it was in this building, and that building had barely opened. And actually, as one anecdote, I was in charge of assigning space to all the different groups on the 9th floor, and my strategy was to assign space reasonably and then convince each person that they had the best space for whatever reason I could come up with. So So after that, I joined the University of Washington as an assistant professor, and that was the era, of, as you may recall, of big data systems. So think Hadoop, MapReduce, kind of an exciting time, where of course we also knew that Hadoop and MapReduce had a lot of kind of significant limitations. And in fact, Mike Stonebreaker, our Mike from MIT, wrote this kind of blog post about how MapReduce was this ginormous step backward, and it was a terrible idea. However, as an assistant professor, I had a different perspective. I'm like, okay, here's a system that's clearly having an impact in industry. Amazing uptake, everyone is using it. And I agree, yes, terrible in so many different ways. I'm like, tenure, here I come, right? So working with my student and collaborators, we really looked and studied a lot of kind of foundational and deep questions around how do we process large quantities of data in this new environment. And also looking at other kind of continuing work on a bit on streaming and sensor data, especially realizing that sensor data is dirty, is inaccurate, and how do we produce kind of good results. We got some good recognitions, some actually people did continue to read our papers, which was nice, so thank you to everyone who did that. But I think what was truly, well, thank you. But what I think was truly interesting at that point is that I didn't just do this. I actually do this by having children. So I had, against everyone's best advice, I had a baby on basically almost immediately after joining the University of Washington. And then I had a second daughter also before 10 years. So you can see me here in my office with all the necessary equipment. The other one is me on a standard business trip with all the necessary equipment. And it was quite for those who did it, as you can recognize, it's quite challenging. For those who didn't have a chance to do it, the closest I can explain is imagine you're doing all your tenure years, feeling always sick in some way, having huge external responsibilities, and like never getting a good night's sleep ever. But this kind of good CSAIL attitude, if you want to try it, just try it, and it might just work. And somehow they gave me tenure. So again, I guess thank you, MapReduce, for doing that. So once I was tenured, it was really the era of cloud computing. So how do we not just kind of process large quantities of data, but offer these systems as cloud services? And since I had tenure and I had nothing else to worry about, I decided to take more risks. And we actually, with my students, collaborators, built our own big data system, which is the most satisfying thing ever because you get to make all the right, from my perspective, decisions, and you don't have to deal with somebody else's kind of, design decisions, so kind of a really fun experience. And we actually ran the system as a cloud service for several years where people could just open their browser and they could start to analyze their data. We also looked at other foundational questions around, well, what if people want to not just purchase the service, right, the database service, but they also want to purchase data. They might want to, as they sell their data, also attach some data use agreements to it. And if they want to purchase these services, they don't want to purchase virtual machines. They just want to have some performance levels. So a lot of kind of really exciting work in that space, answering all of these different questions, and again, producing different systems, getting some recognitions. I also had a chance to spend some time at Google on the Spanner team, and Gene's talk made me realize how fortunate I was going to Google, where it was clearly the top 1% kind of experience. I thought I was getting a standard experience in industry, but I guess maybe not quite. And I think for those of you senior faculty members, you know that this is kind of like an awesome time to be an associate professor because you get to take chances, do exciting work, and then you don't have to worry about all these leadership responsibilities that are just looming. But before you know it, somehow you get promoted, and then suddenly people come looking to you and say, you're doing great research, but there's also all these other things that would be great for you to do. So as a full professor, I felt like, okay, this is really, I made it. I don't have to worry about any more promotions. My next promotion will be emeritus, and I'm not in a hurry, so I can, I can truly take chances. And I thought, okay, I'm a database person, but I want to do fun things. What's the funnest, coolest thing I can do? And I thought, well, virtual reality sounds really fun. And there's a lot of data in virtuality. There must be some kind of data management question. And starting from this vague idea, somehow the NSF reviewers actually liked it. I ended up working on this really cool project, building the LightDB system, which is a data management system for virtual reality, which then expanded into doing generally helping users with data management for video data, kind of very cool projects. Allows me to have lots of videos of kittens in my talks, which is always beneficial. And also looking at kind of the modern workloads. We have heard at the previous talk so many workloads around AI, ML, always a lot of data management challenges associated with it, so kind of a lot of really cool work that we can do here. But as you can see, so doing this kind of cool work until today, again, kind of getting some recognitions, but there's also these other logos that are starting to creep in, because indeed, as I was stepping into this role of full professor, there were all these kind of leadership duties that were also beginning. So let me say a few words about those. The first is in 2017, so pretty much soon after, as I was getting promoted, I took over as the director of the eScience Institute at the University of Washington. This is our big data science institute. We founded it in 2008, before data science was a term, hence the name, and we decided to stick with the name because it was our brand. I was part of the institute almost since its inception, so kind of as a junior faculty joining shortly after. And I took over as a director after the founding director stepped down. It was a really exciting, it still continues to be a really exciting institute because it does three things. So first of all, it brings all the University of Washington data science and our AI communities together and creates this wonderful, neutral space where everyone can just do research and ask questions, and there are no turf wars. Because if someone tells me, well, why does eScience does X? I tell them, what do you mean, why eScience? You are eScience, we are eScience, just come us. Like this is our institute for all of the university. So a great place to meet people from different fields and just work together. eScience also provides education, so from both formal programs, and I'll say a few words in a second about that, but also these kind of software carpentry, data carpentry, Cloud 101 kind of tutorials, which means anyone interested in data science and in AI can come and say, I just want to get started and get the right support, get support from professional data scientists, research scientists in getting started. And once their lab is using state-of-the-art tools, then again, back to the community, it's a great place to find collaborators to really go beyond the state-of-the-art. And as a result, a lot of really exciting research coming out of collaborations through eScience. So of course, as I describe it like this, you're like, wow, that was an awesome job directing such an amazing institute. And yes, but there was one catch. When I took over in 2017, we had already built up the institute, but our major grant that was funding us was going to end in 2 years. So we're basically looking at a 2-year of happy time and then this abrupt financial cliff. And the first thing people asked me when I started was like, Magda, should I be sending my CV around, or are we going to actually survive this cliff? And I put on my CSAIL attitude and I'm like, no, of course, don't worry. And of course in the background, I'm like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? But somehow, working with the University of Washington, we convinced the leadership that eScience was so fundamental and so transformational, they really should support us and fund the institute permanently, and we obtained kind of a sufficiently large amount of permanent funding that the institute kind of continues to thrive until today. So very exciting time. The one thing I wanted to highlight out of eScience is that we did put together, and that's something I was leading first as a professor, then as a director, was all the formal data science programs at the University of Washington. Early on, we decided that we did not want data science to be just something that a select few majors in this new major program learn, but something that everyone should learn throughout campus. So we started these data science programs as specializations in existing majors. First at the PhD levels, Everyone's okay? Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks for everyone in the back for helping. So one thing that was really exciting in the eScience Institute is that we led the development of these formal data science programs, starting at the PhD level and then going to the undergraduate level, and having these data science specializations now offered in about 22 different units. We did eventually also create a data science minor because it was a great catch-all for anyone who couldn't access a specialization in their own major, and in particular, kind of opening it up and thinking it through for also the humanities, the arts, and the social sciences, so that they could, because they also have just amazing talents to bring to the table. So that was kind of, I thought life was great. I was, running the eScience Institute, which was doing well. We had these programs. I actually also decided to take some time and spend time at Google, this time on the Google BigQuery team. But unfortunately, duty called, I guess, and I was named the next director of the Paul J. Allen School of Computer Science and Engineering, and that was in summer of 2019. I negotiated a start date of January 2020 to help me wrap things up. And actually, GeekWire, this news outlet, wrote this really kind of kind article about it. They called me veteran data scientist. Don't know how I feel about the veteran part, like I'm not that old. But otherwise they actually said, I was going to somehow take the school to this new era, which sounded so exciting in summer 2019 when they wrote it. Of course, little did we know I was taking us to the next era, as we had the COVID-19 pandemic start right as I was beginning. So almost 2 months into my new position, I barely had a chance to find my way around my office, that I had to make actually the tough call that we at the University of Washington were the first to call that all the events for that spring really just had to go virtual, including the prospective grad visit days, which we know was very hard. And shortly, a few days after this, all of the University of Washington went online, and all of us really went online. But even though the COVID-19 pandemic was really challenging, it did not stop us to make great strides. So we continued to grow the program. This is the number of degrees we are producing in the Allen School over years, and you can see kind of this continued growth. We are a capacity-constrained major, which means we only accept students when we have the budget to do so, but we are able to kind of raise that money, continue to grow. And also because we were growing the program, I had the immense privilege of hiring, and actually counted today, since I started January 2020, I hired 30 faculty members into the Allen School. Just amazing, amazing talent. People both coming straight out of PhD programs or postdocs, also people relocating from other institutions, of course hiring in machine learning and related robotics, NLP, right, AI, but also in exciting new fields like molecular programming. We now have 4 faculty members in the Allen School doing their computer science work in wet labs. One of them that I had to negotiate during the pandemic, not able to even see the space and having no idea what, my time is up, what wet labs are about. We've built a quantum computing group. We have a new computer science education group, so just so much talent. And I'll just take one minute to finish here. We also did kind of a lot of exciting work on research around especially computer science for the group, for the greater good area. And since I'm out of time, I'll just skip to this, that in spite of the pandemic, we created multiple centers, multiple great initiatives. One thing I want to mention that I'm really proud of, and I'm happy to talk to people during the break, we have this amazing tech ecosystem in Seattle. And that really provides just so many opportunities for our faculty members to engage deep with industry, create new research labs, create new research groups. And one thing I negotiated with the UW, and UW had this, kindness and vision to support, is this really flexible extended leave policy that allows our faculty members to engage in these kinds of commitments. But finally, and this is my last slide, what was the secret of kind of this great CSAIL education? Part of it was working hard, and that's kind of a lot of what we remember. One thing I learned is that kind of you work really hard, and on Friday we would all step away from our computers, go to Kendall Square, have a beer, play pool, and then go back to the lab and continue research and continue doing work. But when I looked at my pictures, and this is really the last slide, a lot of what I saw was actually a lot of eating cake in the old building, eating cake in the new building, so kind of drinking champagne, toasting, partying. The middle pictures here is like us working hard at conferences, but somehow, it all really came together. So thank you so much, CSAIL, for a great education, and cheers to the next 26 years.